Tantalus. Characters: Tantalus, king of Phrygia; Dione, queen of Phrygia; Pelops, a chorus of kitchen slaves; a seer; Zeus. The scene is the great hall in the palace of Tantalus in Phrygia. From high Olympus comes the joyful word. This day the children of crooked-minded Cronus come unto my palace for their nightly entertainments. Their greater purpose is undisclosed, but certain tokens of intent can I discern. Are they come to me to call me into this other space, and take my place among the deathless race? Zeus seeded me into a mortal womb. Ever have two natures wrestled in my breast, to rule and to be ruled, to be the singer and to be the song. More than a man, yet I dwell with mortals. A god's fire burns within this fleshly frame. How long must I, that knows itself divine, consent to masquerade in flesh and time? There is an ancient prophecy abroad that Zeus shall be overthrown by a son of his own bloody seed. From Caucasus upon his rugged crag, Prometheus has proclaimed the thing shall be. Men have called me that son. I too have felt some secret whisper saying, Thou art he. Perhaps great Zeus has heard the whisper too, and therefore comes this night to learn whether my appetite hungers for his crown. But his thunderbolts I covet not, nor his throne. I would not tear the scepter from his hand. But there are seats enough on high Olympus. Why should not one be mine beside my sire? I have dark divinity within my blood, and gold of mortal empire in my hand. By birth, by conquest, and by what I've wrought, this higher throne should rightly now be mine. I have obeyed limits long enough. This night, the gods put me to this final test. What honor has been done us, and deserved? The deathless ones themselves have sought our hall, and chosen us from all the mortal world to share their confidences. How many kings command 1,000 spears, yet never entertain a single god? How many queens draped in purple all their lives, yet never fill Hera's own brimming cup? But we have risen higher than them all. Together we have earned Olympus's trust. Together built the house they honor now, and made our name familiar to the gods. Your victories abroad and my care within, your scepter and my governance of home, your strength my measure, your command my gentle hand. Together these have brought them to our doors. And now the immortals number us among the favored few whom heaven deigns to know. No common honor this, nor yours alone. The gods have come to us, my lord, to us. Whatever blessings follow from this night, whatever greater station waits beyond, we shall receive it as we earned it, joint. For what is Tantalus without his house? And what this house without the two of us? Always seeking to reduce me by half, it is not for you, but for me the immortals are come to counsel, to know the inner temper of my heart, to divine whether I be mortal or immortal. Dread king, I counsel you against these thoughts. Whatever Zeus intends, present yourself as suppliant. Folly forever dogs the proud man till suffering has taken arrogance out of him. I shall prepare all things appointed for the feast, and dress these halls in modest grace, as befits the servants of great Zeus. Forever hateful, ever contrary, You wound by implication, never speech. Aggression hides within this paroxysm of passivity, and every question carries hidden teeth. Contempt comes masked as innocent concern. If I proclaim my glory, you inquire whether the purple might be darker still. If I wear fur, you counsel me toward cloth. If cloth adorns me, fur would suit me more. Whatever road I take, you point elsewhere. Whatever thing I choose, you choose its lack. You never strike, but inquire if I feel the blow, then deny the phantom injury I suffered. Enough! I know this contest of yea and nay, this endless contradiction dressed as care. Speak what you mean, or spare me your rebuke. But no more of this, your woman's negotiation. I seek not to deny you, but to moderate, for measure better suits the race of men, and most of all when mortals feast the gods. How deftly you work these platitudes as needles, moderation, modesty. Where is measure found within the world that I have made and ruled? I may be ignorant of the gutter violence of war, but here within the compass of the hearth it is not Ares who governs, but Hestia. Here there must be measure, balance, peace, the gentle answer set against command, and mercy laid beside the claims of law. For every power must somewhere meet its bound, and even thunder halts before the hearth. Command your generals beyond these walls, make war, break cities, bend proud kings to you. But here, where fire is tended and children sleep, where bread is broken and the household joins, another law must govern mortal things. So rule the world beyond these doors as king, but in the matters of the hearth and home, be ruled by me. This is no matter of domesticity, it is no petty business of the hearth and home. Tonight Zeus shears my mortal husk and consigns my loathsome flesh to Hephaestus' forge. All through my life desires contrary have contested and torn me like a length of rope between two steeds, one galloping towards the rising sun, the other headlong towards the dying west. But now his purpose has become clear. In the cauldron of mortality has my divinity been made, to overtop these rude limits on my dominion. A god is born to the everlasting, and so like a spoiled prince knows not his own power. But I am made myself omnipotent, and therefore more than some rude god. Husband, is your mind diseased? You speak as one possessed of a demon. Quiet these furies growing in your words before thou be struck blind and dumb. Why do you continue this denial? This is no mortal pride frothing forth my gums. I am no petty chief set upon a dunghill challenging Apollo to a contest of the bow. My grandsire Cronus ruled the world before, and his was Uranus, the primal sky born out of Gaia, wedded to the earth, who fertilized the mother whence he sprang. From their embrace came all that crawls and breeds, the creeping things that multiply in fields, and from their joining sprang 12 Titans forth, 3 Cyclopes, and the 300-handed. But cruel Uranus beheld his sons, the one-eyed children and the monstrous brood, whose 100 hands hung writhing from their sides, and hated what his seed had brought to life. He drove them downward underneath the world, and thrust them deep within their mother's womb. He buried children in the flesh that bore them, and made their mother Gaia be their tomb. But crooked-minded Cronus, fiercest born of all the Titans, heard his mother's cries, and in his heart conceived the death of king, the ancient sacrament of regicide. From Gaia's hand he took the adamantine sickle fashioned hard against the rock and stone, and hid himself beneath the cloak of night, to stalk his father through the darkened world. Then when great Uranus descended low to spread himself upon the waiting earth, His son sprang upward from his hiding place, and with one stroke unmanned the primal sky. The screams and blood fell burning on the wounded earth. The severed seed was scattered on the sea, and where it struck the gray-white foam, new gods arose from that most ancient wound. The Furies came from the drops of their father's blood, these hateful daughters, ministers of wrath, and from the sea that whitened all the waves rose Aphrodite, loveliest of gods. Thus horror bore both vengeance and desire. From one wound issued punishment and love. The hideous and beautiful were twins, begotten from the same immortal blood. And Cronus seized the scepter of the sky and took his sister Rhea for his queen. From that embrace the Olympians were born, great Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera too, with Hestia and fruitful Demeter. But Cronus knew the ancient law of age. He knew how he had mounted to the throne. He knew the hand that murders for a crown must someday fear the children of that hand. So one by one, as Rhea bore them forth, he swallowed each into his cavernous gut. Poseidon disappeared, then Hades went, then Hera, Hestia, and Demeter. But cunning Rhea learned her husband's heart, and when at last she bore the child called Zeus, she wrapped the Omphalos in swaddling clothes and gave the stone to Cronus for his son. He swallowed it, while Zeus, concealed away in secret, drank the milk of mountain goats until the infant grew to god and king and came at last to claim his father's throne. He seized old Cronus, pinned him to the rock, and forced his father's belly to give up the children buried living in his flesh, dragging his sisters and brothers one by one back through the mouth that swallowed them alive. Then Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades seized their sire and tore the conquered Titan limb from limb. They feasted on the flesh below his waist and cast what still remained of Cronus down, 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 further still. His torso, arms, his still undying head, great Zeus bound fast within the deepest pit, beneath the lowest dungeon of the world, where even Hades shudders to descend. And there my grandsire hangs in Tartarus, still screaming through the everlasting night. And when his distant cries ascend from hell, men hear them in the roaring of the sea. Such is the blood from which my blood descends. I am the son of Zeus, the son of kings. The king of heaven's own seed resides in me. You misunderstand me, husband. I seek not to diminish you, but ennoble you. Be not a man of a single face. Show you can turn your talents to the occasion. Show yourself the master of both realms. And remember this, Zeus did not make you a god, but a man. I warn you now to cease this harassment. Moderate your counsel, or I will obliterate it. I am woman, but not a potted flower, and I give counsel worth hearing. Forget not that my blood is older even than yours. My father Oceanus girds the earth. My mother Tethys bore the rivers forth. My sister Metis first bride to Zeus, before your father took another queen. But from the deepest pit of Tartarus came ancient Uranus's prophecy, that Metis first would bear a daughter child, and afterward a son who might rise up above his father and usurp the throne. So when Zeus had planted her with seed, by cunning changed her to a little fly and swallowed her entire into himself. Yet wisdom had already been conceived. Within my sister Pallas grew to life. Within great Zeus she ripened toward her birth. 9 months Athena grew within them both. In Metis first, then in the skull of Zeus. And there my sister fashioned for her child the armor that would deck Athena's frame. She hammered bronze within the thunderer's head until he howled to have his skull split wide, and forth sprang Pallas, terrible and bright. So do not speak to me as merely wife, nor think the female but a yielding thing. The male may hold predominance in strength, yet still is posterior to the female. The thing that thrusts must first have whence to thrust. The thing that acts must first be brought to life. Consider, husband, what a sword reveals. The grip comes first, and afterward the blade. The blade may flash more brightly in the morning sun, yet sever blade from grip, and what remains? Only a sharpened thing that wounds the hand that seizes it. Divinity is thus integrated, both grip and blade. You look upon the thunderbolt of Zeus and turn your eyes away from all his reign. You praise the fire that splits the ancient oak, yet not the drops that make the wheat arise. You take the part of heaven that destroys, and name it whole because it looks like you. How you dull your rebukes into banalities. It is no great insight that creation is made male and female. The one is passive and the other active, the one to nurture, the other to destroy. The clawed beast that roams heaths and mountain glens is only female, passive, trusting, integrated with the wilds of Artemis's wood. Man then is an alloy of creation, a Gemini of the male and female, a compromise betwixt the two. He receives the rain and redirects into the earth he chastised and plowed. But the Godhead neither compromises, bends, receives, nor submits. The Godhead has no passive principle. God is man. At last you speak the thing you truly mean. What is that? You have not made yourself resemble Zeus. You have made Zeus resemble Tantalus. And how quickly you have moved from considering to assurance. Where were your flirtations with Providence displaced by certainty of its course? You, woman, made them certain with your feckless inquests, for I know only that your words are contrary, and thus you made yourself an anti-oracle, whose hateful words, when turned inside out, deliver guidance. So bear now these actions your inquisition has produced. My will is resolved unto this other space, where humanity is but an amusement of Providence. Husband, forgive me. I am only a woman. You must forgive my senseless ramblings. I see now in your face terrible, nay, I see pain. I am that pain. I caused that pain and beseech thy pardon. And now you would unravel my resolve with woman's weapons, these weeping tears. But I am not moved. I cannot be moved from this seat. I am the fire that swallowed Lydia. I am the spear that laid Sicilia low. I am the chain that yoked Bithynia, the pestilence that ravaged Cappadocia. I am the king of all that lies beneath my eye, and the king of all that yet shall rise from the dust. What thing I curse, I speak unto its grave. What thing I bless, I summon into life. I know the mystery priests conceal, the truth entombed beneath piety's robes. Dare once, and kingdoms tremble at thy feet. Dare again, and law itself forgets thy name. Dare yet again, though all the world cry no, though heaven forsake thee, though friends turn their back, though every wound proclaim thee defeated, still to dare. For daring is the pulse beneath all things, the hidden spring that moves the stars themselves. Outrage is the antidote to the impotence of moderation. Gentle wife, thou should have made fury thy tutor, to blot out restraint, or else praise the one who can. Claos falls stillborn from the womb, seated with compromise. It is not pride in your heart, but hubris. Tantalus strikes Niobe to the ground. The sentry enters. Sire, the seer begs an audience. Send him in. Enough have I had of this draining dialogue. Most sacred king, I fall at my knees before you, and from my knees I prostrate myself in full before your most divine and regal throne, for you are rightly called the Savior of the world. I am sure we thank you. Now unfold for me whatever riddle you have needs tell me, and do not bow your reading to my vanity, but speak only pale truth. I was traveling from the oracle where I had offered sacrifice in your name. A nest I found, an eagle's lonely nest, where cried a single chick for want of food. Then high above a screaming eagle wheeled, his talons keen as razors in the sun. Around and around he circled through the air, twice and then thrice before he stooped at last. He fell upon the nest with dreadful force. The little eaglet, trusting in its sire, reached forth to pry its father's beak apart, expecting there the morsel of its life. But none was given. Then the father turned and fed upon the tender flesh below. With talons honed upon the craggy rocks, he tore the down and feathers from the child. The father screamed above the nestling's cries, while from his beak the dark blood trickled down. You hear that, fickle woman? Could a sign from heaven be more plain? Zeus himself discredits your pleas and counsel. He bids me forth unto metamorphosis. And here I obey the will of Zeus. Hear that, dear wife, for in all modesty I accept the commands of Olympus. I most humbly bow before Zeus's injunction. And now, wench, speak your revised counsel, and seek to bend me to disobedience. I know not what you believe is instructed, but ambiguity is forever at the core of prophecy. Enough of you, and be gone from my hall. Send for the cooks and the stewards of the kitchen. The feast must now be prepared. My wife would have the gods sit upon the ground and feast upon stale bread and sour wine, all to demonstrate her meekness of virtue. In all humility I will prepare the feast with my own hands. Send Pelops to me, that he may learn how to serve the gods. The chorus enters and sings. We come, dread king, to labor at your feast. Command, and every hunger shall be ceased. Tell us what courses, name the waiting fare, the eastern spices breathing through the air, the jars of oil, the honey and the wine, the herbs still wet with dew from mountain thyme. Give us the odors ere we see the food. Let roasting flesh awaken appetite's mood. Let cinnamon and thyme possess the hall, and fragrant smoke climb heavenward through all. Tell us the bowls, the baskets, and the boards, the plenty worthy of immortal lords. The figs split open, purple, red, and sweet. The grapes hung heavy where the vine leaves meet. Tell us of wheaten loaves, still steaming hot, of onions blistering in the brazen pot, of olives shining dark beneath the oil, and every bounty won from mortal toil. We are but hands that wait upon your word, your thought commands, and presently is heard. And cleavers fall in bubbling pot and flame, till every course takes substance from your name. This flattery strangely wrought in servants' deeds, have no chorus buzzing at my hand, no swarm of tongues to praise what is not made. Be gone from the kitchen and from the hearth. Tonight no common cook shall tend these fires, for this feast is mine and mine alone to make. No other hand shall season, carve, or stir. No other eye shall witness what I do, for what I fashion here is more than food. What I serve tonight is more than meat. I shall prepare it with my eaglet near, my little Pelops, issue of my blood. The boy shall learn what kingship asks of men, and watch his father labor for the gods. Go now, clear every servant from the rooms. Leave knife and basin waiting by the board. Heap high the wood and wake the sleeping fire. Then shut the doors and trouble me no more. And send for the boy, you hear me? Send him here. Send Pelops to his father at the hearth. Send in my eaglet. Tantalus leaves the hall and enters the kitchen. The chorus sings. His words are strange, his purpose is obscure. Some dreadful thought within him labors sure. We know not what he fashions by the flame, nor why he drove us from the hearth in shame. What secret works require a bolted door? What thing prepares he on the kitchen floor? We hear the sharpened iron scrape the stone. We hear him moving somewhere there alone. Why calls he now for Pelops to attend? What need has he of son? What need of friend? Why must the child be summoned to that room, where firelight dances strangely through the gloom? But hark, here comes, we hear his little feet, their pitter-patter innocent and fleet. Through all the marble corridors they fall, a little heartbeat echoing through the hall. And there he comes in robes of spotless white, his tender body wrapped in linen bright, the soft white flesh untouched by wound or scar, his face as tranquil as the evening star. Gold are the curls that tumble round his eyes, sea green their depths beneath the summer skies. So fair a thing scarce seems of mortal sod, but some young shoot descended of a god. He knows no fear, he hastens to the door, his naked feet pass lightly on the floor. He thinks his father calls him there to play, and smiling little Pelops makes his way. O child, go slowly, linger now in the hall, turn back your feet, pretend you heard no call. Find some dark corner, hide yourself from sight, run to your mother, flee into the dark night. But still he comes, obedient to the word, too young to fear the summons he has heard. The kitchen door swings open to the flame. He enters, and his father speaks his name. Pelops, my son, close fast the doors, let every shutter fall. These secrets may not be shown to eyes unworthy of celestial things. Father, what feast do we make for the guests? Little Pelops, a feast for immortals. But strange how his white cheek tempers my resolve. Woman's thoughts invade me, these weak impulses of men. Here at my side is a lamb, a black ewe, which itself would make a fine stew. And my son, I wish to hold him and caress. It is the deepest root of my mortality. The tree I have cast into the fire, for how many thousands have I slain, how many bodies stripped beneath my sword. By deeds like these I rose above all kings and made the nations tremble at my name. No, gentleness is not the natural law. 'Tis hesitation that undoes a king. The hand that pauses loses what it holds. The heart that softened forfeits its command. But this root, this horrible root, I cannot dislodge. Husband, my king, I am at the bolted door. Let me join you. I agree we shall serve the gods of meal fit for Olympians. I was wrong about the modesty. I was wrong about your nature. I was wrong to speak. Husband, my dread king, my dread husband. Come, Pelops, sit beside your father here, take in your hand this little sprig of wheat. Behold it well. What seems more innocent? Yet mark the filthy earth from which it springs. Smell this spring, Pelops. It was torn from Gaia's flesh with plows. We cut deep wounds into the yielding earth that we might sow our hunger in her scars. And from those wounds her children rise for us, the golden wheat, the barley, and the corn. We reap them with the sickle, bind their limbs, then grind their bodies underneath the stone. And what of wine? We pluck the swollen grape, then crush the child of Bromius till it bleeds. We lift the cup and drink our mother's blood, and call the bloody sacrament a feast. What thing that lives does not live by consuming life? What meal is innocent of death or pain? Look closely, every appetite's taboo, and all of life survives by eating itself. Creation feeds forever on itself. The mother eats the child the mother. We live because another thing must die, then die ourselves that other things may live. Behold again this sprig of wheat. It grows from dung, from putrefying death, from flesh dissolved and rotting into the earth. It feeds upon the bodies of the dead and fattens on corruption underneath. And we shall grind it, we shall bake it into bread and eat, and what remains becomes our waste, returns again to the earth and feeds the wheat, which feeds the flesh that feeds the earth again. Thus all that lives is feeding upon death, as death already the living. Open the door. Husband, please open the door. Oh, please open these doors. I did not mean to upset you. Husband, husband, please open these doors. Father, it is mother calling. Shall I answer it? No. Your mother must not interfere now. She is only gentleness and mirth. She defies me, taunts me, despises me with modesty. See, Pelops, this little kitchen blade I hold, how plain it seems, how harmless, ordinary, a wooden haft, a little tongue of bronze. Yet what is all its office in the world? To wreck and tear, to separate the flesh and joints, to hack and cleave the children of the earth, and make their mangled bodies fit for food. The blade feels nothing when it enters flesh. It does not pause because the lamb has eyes. It does not tremble at the little throat, nor ask what law permits the blood to flow. Am I then less resolute than senseless bronze? Shall Tantalus recoil where iron strikes? And as the knife obeys the cooker's hand, so mortal hands are instruments of Zeus. The knife knows nothing but of the feast it serves. Perhaps we know no better of his feast. If Zeus desired a gentle race of men, he might have fashioned gentleness alone, for hunger, lust, and rage are things superfluous in nature. But yoked to our bellies and hearts by Zeus, shall I blush to imitate his world? Shall I condemn the thing its maker made? Father? Yes, my son. What is the cause of thunder? Your grandfather causes the thunder. What is a grandfather? A grandfather is the father of a father. And who is my grandfather? Your grandfather is my father. And my grandfather makes the thunder? He does. Why does he make the thunder? To punish the wicked. What is the wicked, Father? Those who refuse to obey the gods. Why do they refuse? Tantalus seizes Pelops. Pelops screams, My son, my poor unhappy son, your mother is here. I hear you, yet I do not move. My son, I hear you, I am here. The chorus sings, A grip without a blade, she drifts upon a sea of passing whims, where every purpose rises, breaks, and dims. One thought commands her, Act, the hour is here. The next draws back and whispers, Wait, take care. She steels herself, at last her choice is made. She'll break the door, she'll seize the bloody blade. If Zeus has placed this horror in her breast, then Zeus commands the mother to protest. Her hand goes up, her fingers touch the door. One instant more, and thought returns once more. Wait. Every feeling rushing through her heart demands that she examine every part. She fights with none and entertains them all, while each in turn commands her rise or fall. A feeling comes, the feeling breeds a thought. The thought becomes a purpose fiercely wrought. The purpose gathers sinew, hand, and breath, and seems prepared to wrest the boy from death. Then purpose asks itself if it is right, and there it stops. Another thought takes flight. The will to act grows sick with second sight, then curdles slowly into doubt and fright. The doubt calls hesitation prudence's name, and prudence freezes thought into a frame. Then something else comes surging through her breast. Go now! And once again she leaves her nest. Again the feeling ripens into thought. Again the thought toward action that would be brought. Again she lifts her hand to strike the door. Again she finds a reason to wait a little more. Thus round and round the wheel of reason flies. Resolve is born, grows old, and swiftly dies. Each newborn certainty survives an hour, then yields before another newborn power. Go, wait, strike, think, be bold, take care, for every thought may hold some grain of truth, and every doubt demands another proof, and every proof gives birth to one more doubt, while still her hand hangs trembling at the door. And somewhere past that door the knife comes down. She hears it. Still her thoughts go round and round. She hears him crying somewhere past the door, the little feet that shall come forth no more. She hears him cry, she hears him scream, his mother's name made terrible with pain. Pelops, Pelops, she calls him through the door. Can you hear your mother any more? Dione runs away. Tantalus exits the kitchen covered in blood. A blood-stained basin standing by the fire, a cleaver waiting for the king's desire, torn strands of sinew scattered on the board, and tender flesh in little portions stored. A feast to sate the hunger of a beast, yet this means an immortal feast. O reckless hand, O deed no tongue should tell, O father making of this hearth a hell. That gentle child, that little golden head, lies broken by the copper pot and dead, yet somewhere underneath his armored breast remorse still burns and will not wholly rest. His fingers tremble, still his lips half smile, he salts the broth and tastes it all the while. His fevered eyes burn brighter than the fire, each bubbling breath blows higher his desire. The feast is cooked. Cook the feast, it is cooked. The stew simmers in the pot, the feast is cooked. Season it not, look not inside the pot. The boy Pelops fell. He stumbled headlong into the stew. His little head struck against the floor. No, he fell upon the cleaver, or he was sick. A fever took the boy. He caught it in the nursery last night. His tutor brought the sickness to the house. I warned them that the man looked pale and ill. Or else a flower. Yes, perhaps he ate a flower, some poisoned blossom growing by the wall. I told him not to touch it. But children, they never heed their fathers when they speak. And his skull he cracked his little skull. He fell, that's all, he fell. I saw him fall. He tumbled from the stool, no, from the board, no, from my arms. He slipped out of my arms. I tried to catch him, reached for him. I nearly had him, gods, I nearly had. What is at this hour? What robes to wear, what songs shall fill the hall, what jewels best become fair Niobe, what crown shall rest upon my worthy brow? The table must be spotless, sweep the floor, no coarse odor greets celestial guests, but Pelops, little Pelops. No, burn incense, sweeten every darkened room, anoint the boards with fragrant oil and wax, let every cup be polished into light, let every platter catch the fire's glow. For into this poor house the furious god shall come. Tantalus exits. The Olympians arrive, and the chorus sings. From Amanus, whose white and frozen brow breaks through the clouds that gather round it now, to Tmolus and Meander's serpent strand, 100 peoples answer his command. From Ephesus, where Artemis holds sway, to Sardis crowned beneath the clouded day, from Semira's harbor unto Chios' shore, his name is known, his word is obeyed as law. The Haliais know his law, the Hermes bends, Patroclus' golden sand his glory sends. These severed lands he kneaded into one, and thinks the work of mortal kingship done. Now deathless gods recline on ivory beds, while nameless dread hangs heavy overhead. In Tyrian purple Tantalus reclines, and drinks the richest of his eastern wines. He laughs, he drinks, he cracks the riding throng, the frightened servants scatter through the throng, but none among the deathless share his cheer. The feast is rich, yet something whispers fear. Great Zeus sits silent at the laden board, his brow like earth first broken by the plow. Keen Hermes lets his restless glances stray toward that barred kitchen door across the way. White Hera raises up her cup of wine, then breathes its scent and will not taste the vine. Demeter whispers underneath her veil to Artemis, whose troubled features pale. Before the antlered trophies on the wall, mute witnesses assembled in the hall. And through the uneasy silence comes a sound. A lyre's first trembling note goes softly round. The bard comes forth, his ancient song begins, of fathers, sons, inheritance and sins, of Cronus swallowing children through his fear, of Rhea's stone, and Zeus whom she held dear. He sings how sons arose against his sire, how heaven answered ancient blood with fire, and Tantalus listens, smiling at the song, as though he knows where he himself belongs. The horrid feast before the gods is spread, its foul breath thick through Phrygian chambers shed. Before each god a steaming bowl is laid, a crime-made stew, a child to supper made. The Olympians scowl and leave the feast. No god will touch the flesh of man or beast, save grieving Demeter, whose child is gone, who sits in sorrow scarcely looking on. Her eyes swim dark with tears for Persephone. She sees no bowl, no horror there to see. Her absent fingers wander through the mess, and lift one morsel in her thoughtlessness. Unseeing, lost within a mother's care, she tastes the flesh no god else would dare, and from the steaming ruin unaware, she eats the little shoulder Pelops bare. King Tantalus moves toward Zeus while the singer still sings of murdered sons and fallen fathers' kings. Then, smiling as though equals, he lays his familiar fingers on Zeus's knee. Tantalus, my son, what means this dish? What is in this bowl you would have me eat? What means you, Heavenly Father? It is the stew I have prepared in your honor. Tantalus, my son, what means this dish? It is my proof of obedience. It is a sacrifice, a most pious sacrifice, my father. A sacrilege is not a sacrifice. But my father, it was your oracle, it was your sign. The eagle and the chiclet, you sent the message most plain. I only obeyed. Against all my heart I obeyed your oracle. I tore out the last root of mortality and offered it to you as my pledge. Did you believe I hungered after this? That I would gargle and delight in Pelops' blood, and call that crimson stain our fellowship? How came you to believe this promised us delight, when every law it planted barred the way? How thought you horror could become a gift, and blood the bond that joined your hand to mine? You dreamed that by one monstrous secret deed we'd welcome you as a brother in our deathless hall? I called you to the edge to know your heart, not bid you cast yourself into the dark. I gave you a trial, a most simple trial, and I placed within your breast a faithful judge, a voice more clear than eagle, wind, or flame. Yet for the hope that I would smile on sin, you cast that quiet counselor aside. Simple? You hide yourself beyond the reach of man, then bid us read the secret of your will. We stumble through a maze of signs and dreams, and every path is judged when it is trod. You fill your shrines with murmuring, frantic mouths. Your priests cry out, possessed by divine breath, yet none can tell where heaven's meaning lies. You send the eagle wheeling through the sky. You speak in thunder, silence, smoke, and wind. You bid us trust, then wrap yourselves in cloud, and leave us every reason to despair. You tell us that you love the race of men, yet children twisted in their mother's womb draw breath enough to suffer, not to live. Why are the fields barren? Why is my heart so full of hate? Why does this flower have a prick? Whatever be justice, speak it in the light. Speak plainly, gods, if plain obedience is all that you ask of mortal men. 3 children I gave as companions on your pilgrimage, Apollo, Hermes, and Athena. Reason, law, and conscience in your breast. For well I knew that each, when left alone, might fail the mortal hand that made it known. I gave all three as instruments to man, to make his passage through this darkened span, a workman's tools to carry through the night, when neither gods nor stars reveal the right, when reason melts into a fog of words, and clever tongues make falsehood sound like truth. I gave you law, a boundary fixed and hard, to mark the thing forbidden from the just. And when the law itself inflexible airs, when reason lends its eloquence to crime, I stitched within the chambers of your heart a judge more ancient and subtle. I gave you conscience, faithful in the dark, that sickens though the clever mind approves, that knows the horror though it comes as law, and knows the crime though reason calls it just. Where reason errs, the law answers, or when the law stumbles, conscience gleams light. Or if conscience is now overwhelmed by fear, back comes reason with an answer plain and clear. And all around and around my children dance, probing each dilemma till understanding enhanced. Where one failed, another stood behind, and if two failed, a third remained you. I gave you thought, I gave you boundary, I gave you that within which whispered, no. How passed you every one and came to this? I came to this by your guidance. Often have I overrode the dictates of reason, conscience, and law, and been rewarded. It is the simple priest in his hut who has never feasted the gods. It was by outrage that I made this world you graced. Conscience, law, and reason are but the chains which with I have enslaved the world. You say you love the dictates of conscience, but always have you rewarded the brutal. Always have you punished the weak. I know what this is. I know what you are. What knows the creature of creation's whole? You looked upon the eagle and declared it was my command. Never did you ask if what is seen is all that may be known. You dare profane this holy house with words, that we would hunger for a father's child. You measure heaven by the beasts of earth, and think the gods no better than a pack of starving dogs. You saw one feather in the storm, and thought you held the whole of heaven's wing. And why did you take example from this horror? Were you brought low by hunger as that bird? Did famine drive you to that fearful deed? Were you cast naked on the winter crag? Do you even know that this was an eaglet? No. Here you sat in purple and in gold, amid abundance fit for gods and kings, yet sought instruction from a relayed story of a starving beast, for you envied not his hunger, but his outrage. You saw one beast forget the law of kind, and from one monstrous hour made rule for all. And why not the swallow feeding all her young? Why not the hind that dies beside her fawn? Why not the shepherd giving bread away? Of all creation, you chose this to praise. How was I to know? Why do you hide yourself? A father casts his child out alone into the dark, gives him every reason to disbelieve the father's hand, then chastises him for his doubt. What horrid world is this you made? Why, if your will be all-powerful, do you dress it so dimly? Why do you sow confusion if your law be so plain? Now, having named this darkness, tell me, my son, by what strange light did you become so sure? You grant the doubt, yet claim the certain end. You call the heavens hidden from your eyes, then boast you know the secret of their heart. I do know the secret. I am too far to doubt it now. You say this was a trial, then this is a trial, to see if I will break beneath the weight of mortal cares. This is the darkness through which I must see. I search my soul, and there I find a God. I shall not bow before my father's sons. Before creation I speak one word. I am. Walk carefully now, for another boundary lies before you. Cross this one, my son, and even I cannot call you back. This line, like all others, has grown gray. I gave you law for this very hour, when conscience bends beneath temptation's hand, and reason is crushed beneath the weight of hysteria. Remember the law. Now, remember it. Your law is not for me, murky counsel over which I must act. The entirety is the test. I cross this boundary. I am become you. The chorus sings. In arrogance made blind, the king draws near, his ivory crown a gleaming bright and clear. Toward that defiled and steaming feast he goes, while pride within him like a furnace glows. He takes the spoon, he plunges through the broth, and lifts the horrid sacrament aloft. No trembling now, no conscience bids him cease. He drinks his crime and calls the drinking peace. He waits, his fervored eyes begin to shine, expecting mortal flesh to turn divine. He searches through his blood, his bone, his breath, for some new pulse that shall outlive his death. And to his knees the ivory-crowned king falls down and waits for heaven's welcoming. He spreads his arms beneath the deathless sky and cries aloud his challenge from on high. Am I made a god? Am I no more to die? The gods depart, no blessing crowns the feast, no hand is raised to pardon man or beast, and Hermes, wayfinder with golden rod, now leans the king who thought himself a god. Down through the sunless passages they wind, till earth and living daylight fall behind, through iron gates beneath the roots of day, where even echoes seem to die away. There Tantalus receives his final throne, a tepid pool where he shall stand alone. Cool water laps forever at his chin, yet flees whenever thirst would draw it in. Above his brow the laden branches bend, with figs and pears that seem his waiting friend. But when his starving fingers seek the prize, the bows retreat beyond his hungry eyes. No death shall come to make his wanting cease, no sleep shall grant the smallest hour of peace. Each moment births desire eternally, each promised satisfaction turns to flee. He wanted more than mortal life could give, now wanting is the only life he'll live. He sought a god's exemption from the grave, immortal now, he hungers as a slave. Thus every moment of each endless day, desire shall call and remedy give way. He knows the thirst, but never the wine, he knows the hunger, but never shall dine. And far above, where purple curtains fall, another prison waits within the hall. On silken sheets lies Dione alone, her body still upon a sumptuous throne. No chains confines her, no avenging god has struck her down or raised a chastening rod. Yet still she lies, as once before the door, and turns the questions over evermore. She curses him who brought her house to shame, she gives the tortured Tantalus the blame. She names his pride as author of her pain, and traces every sorrow to his reign. So one below reaches and cannot gain, one lies above and cannot break her chain. He grasps at fruit forever out of sight, she grasps at cause, but cannot make it right. And neither sees, though endless ages roll, the prison fashioned partly by the soul. He, doomed to want what never can be won, she, still unable to behold what went undone. Thus fades the house where gods were asked to dine, where mortal pride reached upward toward the divine. The feast is cold, the sacred guests are gone, but hunger, blame, and longing linger on. The end.